It is not a great time in the American economy, but especially the job market here now in 2025 with just the conditions that it is right now. When I came back to America a few months ago, we came here to make money, and we've done that. We've been making money. It took a while, but we got a good job, and we started our family, and we're moving in the direction that we've been thinking about actually moving forward. Going back to Europe, and getting rid of the job, quitting finally. Because that's what you work for. That's what you work towards, right? Nobody wants to work forever. That's not the goal. You eventually want to quit. You want to quit. You want one day, you want to go in knowing that it's your last day, and that you're going to have that kind of freedom that you can just move forward into something that's your own, something else. But I can't quit my job now. There's no way. There's too much uncertainty. You see on the TikTok or social media, or you see how difficult it is for people out there right now to get jobs. People waiting months at a time. Some people waiting over a year. So one lady, over 15 months, she hasn't had a job. Well, I have a lot to say about that, honestly, because it comes a point where you have to put aside going for the ideal job that you want to get the job that you need. But with that said, this summer, 2025, I feel like I know that this summer is going to have a kind of joblessness like America hasn't seen, maybe in generations. Don't quit your job. If you're in a position right now where you think that it's a good time for you to move, I think twice. I think you should definitely think twice, because the difficulty to actually get a job that matches what you're doing right now, if you feel like you have some kind of stability, you should honestly stick with that stability. Boy, come on. As always on our walk, we have our boy Logan, our mascot. He's a little cow. Logan, say hi. Good boy. Now, I don't say this, that you just shouldn't quit your job for no reason, or because there's some people on social media, but just, we have to look at the facts that are coming in now. And I know that a lot of the data that comes in, a lot of the data is saying that the job market is okay. Unemployment is low. People are having jobs. And this is true. People do have jobs. How are those jobs paying? How many people have two jobs? How many people have to have side hustles? If you have any kind of security, let's say you do have two jobs, right? If you get rid of one to try to move on to another, do you think that you can have something fast enough that's going to match that before you end up eating away at your savings? If you have a savings, because that's a big thing for everyone. Not everyone has a savings. People can't save. It's hard to save now. You have to make a considerable income for most people just to save any money. I think we need to move back to the point where people are kind of living with their parents again until they're married, until they're in a good place that they can move forward. In America, it's a strange thing, but it's pretty normal. No matter where you go in the world, it's normal for people to live with their families until they're ready to move forward, usually marriage, or they already have a good career and a savings. But that's not something we do here. We see it as strange. And I think that that's something we kind of need to move from. But again, going back, this summer, the amount of layoffs that we've seen in this country, millions at this point. And it's the beginning of summer coming up. And what does that mean? School's getting out. More importantly, people are graduating college. Millions of people are graduating college. And that means on top of the millions of experienced people who have recently been laid off, who are now hitting the job market, these are great candidates for a job. If you're an employer, if you're a recruiter, these people who are laid off, if your company is looking, and few companies are now, are you going to pick someone who's fresh out of college? Or are you going to pick one of these experienced workers, who've been at a lot of these more advanced positions, who are willing to take lower positions at lower pay just because of the job scarcity? I mean, it's not a good place to be, especially if you've been accruing student debt, which many people in our country do, because we know now that this administration plans on garnishing wages of people who haven't been paying. So if you just got out of college and now you have to worry about your student loans, now you don't have the ability to pay those. Once you go into default because you don't have an income, you've been looking for a job for the better part of a year because you don't have experience, because you're not a candidate that a lot of employers are looking at now, at least for white collar jobs, for administrative jobs, for office jobs. People they have more choices. So, young people, you really got to leverage your youth at this point. I think that's a good way to put it. We have to leverage the assets that we have in young people. You have an amazing asset, and that's being young, being strong. I'd be the first person to argue that you shouldn't go to college in the first place, especially now. I think this is something that we need to stop telling people, because you're just not going to be competitive probably for the next few years when it comes to actually getting a job, when there's so many people out there who have far more qualifications than you do. The only thing you have going for you is that you're more likely to take lower pay, which taking lower pay in this kind of economy is essentially going to push you into poverty. And if you don't have enough to pay your student loans, they're going to garnish your wages anyway, and you'll be living paycheck to paycheck, which you're probably going to do anyway because it's the way our system works. And it's not good. America's in a bad place right now, especially when it comes to jobs. And I think that the confluence of these factors with layoffs and with new generation of workers graduating from college, and with the economy the way that it is, the layoffs are one thing because people hitting the market, but that also means that there's less jobs out there to be had. I think that we're going to see record-breaking levels of joblessness, of unemployment. And with that, of course, comes an explosion of homelessness. So, good boy. But as a 40-year-old man, if I can give advice to anyone who's young, because I said you have to, if you're young, right, and you're in your 20s, you're thinking about college, or maybe you just graduated college and you find you can't find a job. There's nothing wrong with going to trade school. There's nothing wrong with becoming an apprentice. You're young, you have youth, you have strength, you have endurance. This market right now, blue collar jobs are just killing it. You want to become an entrepreneur? Being a blue collar worker is working in trades, becoming an expert in a skill. That makes you marketable. But in a time where we have a shortage of tradesmen, which we still do, it puts you in the position where you gather these skills enough you can actually go ahead and start your own business. And I'm happy enough to see my brother, who just started his business this year in HVAC, incredibly successful on his first year. How difficult is it for most people on their first year to actually be successful when it comes to starting their own business? It's rare. It's rare. Usually it takes a couple years to build and scale and get clients and get the contracts and jobs that you need to actually be successful. But you see it in the trades all the time. People just getting a van, getting the tools, getting the licenses, and that's it. They're good. Good business is there. Because the fact is, how many companies right now are willing to hire people who have a BA in business? Everyone has that. We've gone past the time where a college degree really is groundbreaking. It's rare, it's not. Everyone has it. But even more so in America, everyone has a college degree, and it really doesn't make you stand out in any way. Your experience does. Your connections do. That's something that you should lean on more than anything else. Listen, going to college for a lot of people isn't going to be a good idea. It's all about the connections that you have, or the connections that you make while you're in college. And that's the thing that they don't tell you, right? That's one of the reasons why fraternities and sororities are so important. Not for drinking and stuff like that, though fun, surely, but it's the connections that you make, because people who go into fraternities and sororities, typically they come from better off families. At least that was my experience when I was in, and that was quite a long time ago, so maybe that's changed, but it does make quite a difference, because these are the people that and their families, they already have businesses, or like I said, you have those connections that you can lean on. It's the same thing being in any kind of organization, where you have an extended network of business. It's the easiest way to actually get a good paying job. Is it fair? No. you know? But I mean, it's what it's always been. It's always been who you know that is going to determine if you're going to get a job or not. Your degree doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Are you fun to be around? I mean, I've seen it time and time again, and I know many people have. And does it feel unfair? Yeah, but at the same time, it is what it is. And you can rage against the system all you want, but it's the system nonetheless, and it's just the way that reality works. People hire people that they know, because it's often safer to hire people that you know. But again, as far as the job market goes this summer and into the fall, I mean, it's going to be a real bloodbath out there. People just aren't going to be working, which means there's going to be more defaults, which means people aren't going to be able to pay their rents, which means that people aren't going to be able to eat the same as they will. Families will go into food insecurity. People are going to have food insecurity. It's a dark place that we're going to be moving into. And that sounds doom and gloom, but it's just reality. You can't say that we're moving into a good direction while we're getting 100, 200,000 jobs being created every month, while at the same time we're cutting 1 million workers. And we have millions of more workers entering the workforce through college. These things add up and paint a bad picture for what employment looks like this summer. But that doesn't worry you, does it, Logan? No, you have snacks. You're a happy boy, right? Nothing bothers them. But it should bother us, and it has to bother us because this is the society that we live in. And for as long as we are in this society, we have to worry about levels of unemployment. Like I said, if you're looking to get a new job, it's going to be hard. So the safest thing you can do right now, just stick with your job. Is it difficult? Yeah. Is it where you want to be? Maybe not. But at the same time, it's where we're at right now. And it's better to keep a job that you may dislike than not have a job at all, especially with funding to food assistance and rental assistance being essentially done away with. So, we have to do what we have to do. And if that means working a job that we don't like, for most of us, that's just what we have to do. What I will say is the most important thing during this kind of time of economic, financial crisis, cost of living crisis, housing crisis, crisis upon crisis upon crisis, is do your best not to go into debt. This is the most practical advice as a 40-year-old man that I can give you, right? I don't have debt. I have a mortgage, that's it, right? But I'm not worried about that. Payments are pretty low. But other than that, don't buy unnecessary things. Stop going. It's so common that we go into debt. It's no judgment to it. There's no negative baggage that comes with a person who's in debt, a person whose head is underwater. In fact, companies are more likely to still lend to you as long as they think that you can make a payment. Or maybe if you're in debt, think about restructuring your loan, consolidating, getting a refinance if you have a home, consolidate your debt, because get rid of as many of the high interest payments as you possibly can. But definitely go through a reputable company and not a debt consolidation company, because that is a shady business and they will absolutely screw you over. But like I said, is it over? Is it the end? No. This is just a period of hardship that our country is going through. And is it going to be extended? And is it going to have a lot of negative consequences? Yeah, because it's pretty obvious that we're headed into a real deep, real hard recession. And with stagflation coming, probably a depression. That's why I'm saying this isn't necessarily the time for risk. If severe joblessness is coming down the line, this is a good time to do safe. This is a time to do safe moves. And not everybody wants to hear that because it's not exciting, right? But sometimes we have to play it safe. And it looks like for the foreseeable future, that's what we have to do, We have to put our plans on hold for a little bit, maybe just a few more months. But, we're still planning on this last winter being the last winter that we had in the States, because honestly, there's just better opportunity at this point outside of the States, depending on what you're doing. But as far as our family goes, there's better opportunity abroad. The cost of living is better. The way of life is simpler. There's a higher quality of living outside of America now, because there's just not the stress in every part of life like you have here. Is it best for everyone to move abroad? No. America is still a great place if you can afford it. If you can afford it, you know, if you have a good job. But it's becoming a place that is not practical for most people who actually want any kind of future. It's a place to get some resources, save, invest, and then leave. And that's sad. And that breaks my heart. It really does. But this is how life goes. And we have to do what's best for us and best for our family. So don't quit your job just yet. Or if you are going to, have another job ready. Because, like I said, there's a glut of unemployed people out there who are willing to take cuts in pay and cuts in position to get jobs because they need to. So keep that in mind. But anyway, if you're still here, hey, think about subscribing. Give a like. You know, there's plenty more content. You know, I want to thank everyone for the support that we get for this channel. And, you know, it goes a long way because as this channel grows, it definitely is, giving us a bit more opportunity, to leave it a little bit early. But anyway, hey, thanks for stopping by, guys, and we hope you have a good one.